More heat on the courts and the sentences they're handing out. There's a bloke called Maka Tapania. He was in High Court. 16 different victims over a 30-year period, including an 11-year-old. The Crown was after preventive detention, and he got 12 months home detention instead. Criminal lawyer Steve Cullen is with us on this. Steve, very good morning to you.
Good morning, Mike.
This sort of thing unusual? I mean, there are a huge variety of sentences available to the court given any individual set of circumstances or not?
It is unusual. It's always a difficulty for a court to have to assess preventive detention because there is a principle in the law that says one should prefer a finite, lengthy sentence if that would provide adequate protection for society. So there's a bit of work that has to be done before people can be sentenced to preventive detention.
Now, this bloke concerned 16 different victims, but over a period of time. Do sentencing judges take in the whole picture or the specific picture of what's in front of them?
Oh, no, absolutely. Once the person's jumped through the hoop of having a qualifying offence and falling with the parameters of the provision, then there are 5 key things the judge has to take into account. The very first is the pattern of offending and the past conduct, fundamentally. The second is the seriousness of harm that's caused to the community. The third is you get information as to a tendency to commit further serious offending, and that without knowing the particular facts of this case, I know that often plays on the mind of the judge, because you get reports from an independent professional as to whether there's a likelihood that this person's going to commit further similar offences, and that is a provision in the statute. The fourth thing is whether they've addressed the causes of their offending by doing some sort of rehabilitation, and then the court is, of course, bound by that rule that says if there's adequate protection by giving them a lengthy finite sentence, then that's more preferable.
Does home detention work?
Home detention works. I'm surprised that one would jump from preventive detention to home detention, because home detention requires a finite sentence of imprisonment of 2 years or less. So clearly there was a lot of information available to this judge that we're not privy to.
Okay. Is it monitored, by the way?
Oh, absolutely.
So properly monitored like you are at home and that's you done?
Well, one says it's monitored, but we're all familiar with cases where people are on home detention, cut off the bracelet and abscond and commit further offences. But apart from that, if they're wearing their electronically monitored bracelet, then by definition they're being monitored.
I'm always hesitant to do individual cases like this, but is this, I mean, to go from preventive detention down to the 12 months home detention, is this part of a general political view that we're trying to keep people out of prison?
Well, not necessarily. What often happens, of course, is the Crown has to take the most serious position in order to try, and protect the interests of the community. So they may ask for preventive detention where it's not necessarily going to be a realistic outcome, but it ought to be viably assessed. So they ask for it. The reports are prepared, and the judge says, well, yes, you did do the right thing in asking, but now that we've got all the material, clearly it's not suitable in this case. But if we hadn't addressed it, we would have been derelict.
Always appreciate your expertise, Steve. Have a good weekend. Steve Cullen, criminal lawyer. That under normal circumstances about $650. It's on us this morning. You're better off informed. No worries.
It's all about the 80s. The 80s, the best music era ever. Coast 80s. Listen and follow now on iHeartRadio.
Listen to Rugby Direct every week to get the lowdown on all you need to know from the rugby world. Rugby Direct has it all. All Blacks, Black Ferns, NPC and more. Listen to Rugby Direct, powered by Newstalk ZB on iHeartRadio or wherever you get your podcasts.